Well, hello folks, this is Yamil for Gunstock Reviews. We're here at the Ben Avery Shooting Facility in Phoenix, Arizona with Freddie Blish. How you doing, Freddie?
Yamil, good to see you again.
Hey man, so today we're going to talk about common mistakes we see at the range. And by that, of course, we mean the safety violations that we see at the range often. And before we talk about these mistakes, we're going to talk about the safety rules.
Yeah, every one of these things that we see at the range are violations of the 4 firearm safety rules that were codified by Jeff Cooper at Gunsite. All guns are always loaded. Never let your muzzle cover anything you're not willing to destroy. Keep your fingers straight and off the trigger till your sights are on the target. Be sure of your target and what's behind it. Now, usually you could probably violate one of those rules. You might get away with it. You violate 2 or more, something bad is going to happen. So don't violate any of them. And be safe when you're out there on the range, not just for yourself, but for everybody else that's on the range. This is very important because a lot of the dumb things we see isn't so much that you're a hazard to yourself, but you're a hazard to other people.
And sometimes it's a lapse of memory, a lapse of judgment that is momentary. And like, again, you and I have made mistakes.
Absolutely.
And we're not perfect. We're not saying that we are perfect and we're not going to preach down on you. We are just trying to share some ideas so that you don't have to make these mistakes and have a tragic end to you or somebody you love, or maybe somebody you just met at the range. So for these demos, we're going to be using what is called blue guns, okay? These are exact copies of real guns. This one is a Springfield Armory XD 9, and this one is a Springfield Armory loaded pistol. That's a basic GI.
Exactly, the Springfield Armory 1911 A1, their GI version, yeah.
Yeah, but it has...
The difference on this is that I removed the plastic that where the grip is, and I was able to put some Crimson Trace laser grips on them. So now I can use this as a great demonstration piece for students when we're teaching gun handling skills, or just basic safety techniques.
That's great. Well, let me start with the first thing that I know that I've seen at the range, and is in loading and unloading a pistol.
Yes.
Okay? Let's say we are just simulate that is the range down there, and you and I are standing next to each other. You're shooting in your table and I'm shooting in my table, and even though we're farther apart at the local range, this is one of the first examples. When you're loading a gun, you put your magazine in, and then we learn to rack the slide like so. But I've seen people do this because it's more comfortable to do this, but you're pointing it at your buddy.
Yeah.
And this is not good.
No bueno.
So what you should do is, that's downrange, you turn around and rack the slide by pointing your pistol downrange. Of course, your fingers off the trigger and your pistol is downrange. So basically, that's one that I've seen that is pretty egregious. And you know what, Freddie? I got one that is, I've seen it too, and it's kind of scary, is when you're clearing your gun. Let's say that take your magazine out and you clear your gun.
Yes. And
you make sure that you're clear for maintenance or whatever. In USPSA, I saw that happen a couple of times, one with semi-catastrophic ending, is people who want to save that round from hitting the ground, and they put their hand over the ejection port and grab that round. They're doing it safely, pointing and everything to downrange, but they do it sometimes kind of harsh.
Yes.
And I have seen rounds fall out of the extractor and have the ejector hit the primer.
Yes.
And go off. And my late good friend, Jay Kempton, out of Rio Salado, the gunsmith, did it at Nationals once, and he had a detonation. The thing exploded in his hand.
A little mini grenade right in your hand.
And he basically had stitches taken in his hand. Yeah. And I remember seeing that.
I'm just
shrapnel and blood everywhere. Yeah. And I had another one, which was kind of like, it was in a IPSC match in Quincy, Illinois, and the shooters sometimes flick the rounds up in the air and catch them. Yeah. And they had to do it really quickly and harsh for the round to fly up and catch them in midair. That's kind of silly. They're showboating.
Yes.
But I had once, I saw it. I didn't see it personally, but I saw the aftermath. A range officer that used to like to stick her nose in the ejection port, basically to see that it was clear. So this guy was being facetious and wanted to hit her with a round.
Yeah.
Well, guess what? The thing exploded. And this lady never did it ever again, because first of all, it was silly of her to do that.
Yes.
But it was kind of stupid of the shooter to try to, showboat
Yes.
at the same time. And that had almost a catastrophe. If she didn't have eye protection, she could have lost an eye.
Lost an eye.
What do you think?
On this, absolutely. And on the same line is that sometimes people will have a malfunction with their gun, and I'm going to pretend that I'm wrong-handed right now, left-handed for you people who get upset about that. And so I have a malfunction with my gun, and what they'll want to do is do this and try to clear the malfunction, and they're pointing it at the person that's to their left or to the right. Instead of just turning their body, keeping it downrange, doing what they should do, or properly just keeping the muzzle pointed downrange and clearing the malfunction as they should.
Well, I have another one. I was at a match once, and this happened to me. I'm on a match, and I'm uprange, waiting to be my turn or whatever, and this gentleman downrange dropped something. I don't know if he dropped a magazine or something. So let me show you here. He went out and dropped something, and you should holster your pistol before you pick something up.
Yes.
He just went and did this. And here I am looking at the business end of a 1911.
Yeah.
And that wasn't good. That was a bad experience altogether. It was like, whoa, that was too close for comfort. The range officer, reamed them out. But that is, okay, or yeah, he wasn't thinking.
Yeah.
At Gunsite, the first thing they tell you after you finish your string of fire, do your tack reload, holster your gun.
Slowly and deliberately.
Yeah, and then pick up whatever you dropped.
Exactly.
Because you don't want to be pointing a gun to the guy next to you or
Yes.
whatever.
Yeah.
What else do you have?
Well, in that same vein, what we'll see sometimes is, especially if we're teaching a class, but it can happen on a main range like here at Ben Avery, where you may have multiple shooters to your left or to your right, and it's about that situational awareness. Is, say, a good example would be, I have my gun out of the holster, it will facing the camera here, and you've holstered your gun, you're bending down to pick something up, but I'm manipulating the gun and I've got it pointed right at your head.
Yeah, or talk about reholstering your pistol.
We see that a lot, especially with striker fire guns. It's a big one for striker fire guns. Is that
like this one here, this XD?
If they have their finger on the trigger as they go to holster, boom.
Yeah.
The other thing about striker fire guns, and it's less negligence than it is just situational awareness, is making sure that any kind of clothing item, t-shirt, especially if you're wearing a hoodie or a fleece that has one of those drawstrings, making sure that does not get into the trigger guard as you're holstering. That is a sure way to have a boom when you don't want one.
Yeah, I've been very careful, but I've had garments get caught shirt.
Yes.
I use pretty large shirts because I conceal with my shirt.
Yes.
And sometimes I've had, when I tuck my shirt in, I have the shirt get caught with a holster, and I've had people, hey, watch out, your shirt is going into your holster.
Yes.
And that could cause a negligent discharge, and that could be really bad. So
Right.
that's one of the mistakes I've made. Now I try to keep aware of tucking my shirt in, making sure that all pieces of clothing or whatever are out of my holster.
Yes.
So you have any more? Or?
Well, one more, and again, it's about being aware of your muzzle and keeping your finger off the trigger, and also being aware of what's downrange. I was out at Table Mesa, which is on Bureau of Land Management property. They have a area for people recreational shooting, and this gentleman was there, older gentleman, had his son, daughter, and their kids. So he had his son, daughter, and grandkids out there. And so they're on the firing line. He's back at the pickup truck handling a loaded firearm, and he's got his finger on the trigger and, you know, kind of waving it around behind them as they're, you know, on the firing line. So yeah, it's not a nice range facility like Ben Avery where you have clearly designated lines. But the point being is that there were people downrange where he was, and he was not being aware of his muzzle, and he had his finger on the trigger, and he was waving his gun around, you know, kind of very negligently, and he could have shot one of his grandkids.
Well, and my last one is, you're talking about Ben Avery, but I've seen it happen here in the main range. They have an area designated, and it says, do not handle firearms here.
Yes.
I remember my son was 7 years old, and I brought him to the range for the first time, and I drilled in him, like, follow the rules, the yellow line and the blue line, and so on and so forth. And we're waiting with our target to bring our target downrange on the ceasefire, and my son's eyes get really big, and he points at the guy next to me, and he's uncasing his pistol on the area that clearly said, do not do this. And my son used to get fist bumps from all the ROs because of how safe he was. Right. Because he was anal retentive about safety, because he read all the things and said, these are the rules. 1 minute warning, he'll tell me, Dad, it's time to save our guns and walk back. And it's like, well, we have 1 minute. No, let's do it now. Well, now following the rules makes you a safe shooter, makes you a safe shooter for yourself, for your family, and for everybody around you.
So another one that we see at Gunsite a lot is, especially when shooters are in some form of competition mode, or they're kind of amped up, is, you know, they're shooting, and either they get beat by another shooter during the man-on-man, or they, for whatever reason, don't shoot as well as they thought they should shoot. They'll do the dangle, and they'll drop their gun, lose all their composure, and now their muzzle is now either sweeping their leg or sweeping somebody that might be behind them. And that's something that, you know, it's about maintaining that situational awareness when you're handling firearms, and that is so important.
Well, I think that's a great idea. Thanks, Freddie, for being with us here today. And remember, be safe and have fun at the range.
Thank you for watching Gunstock Reviews. Please visit our website at www.gunstockreviews.com for more exclusive content. Please visit our Patreon page at www.patreon.com/gunstockreviews. Your contributions would be greatly appreciated and help us grow our selections and frequency of videos.